Hello there. Today we are going to be learning how to do some prototyping. I'll show you the project that we're going to build. I'm going to click on this frame here, shift spacebar to bring up our preview window. And here's our prototype. We've got some hovering going on. If I click on these plant pots, things stick in place. Got a little bouncy animation going on. It's a fun project, and you'll learn a lot about how to build prototypes and various other little tangents along the way as we build this. So this is kind of a fun way to get into this topic. And we're going to start from scratch. So enough chatter, let's get into it. So we've got the two ingredients here. I want to make sure that the flower fits behind. Okay, so the flower is on the layer behind the pot. That's good. We're going to animate this movement. So the layers should be in the correct order if you're going to start animating stuff. The whole thing is inside a frame, which is good, called plant pot. So this will be this sort of defines the fixed size of our animation. And we just need to build towards this final product. Okay, well, let's first take a first step here. Imagine we've got a second frame here and we want to just animate going from closed to open. Very, very basic. So on this frame, I'm going to put the plant in the pot like that. And on this frame, it's sticking out of the pot. So to animate this, just go to prototype over here. And when you're in this mode, you'll see these little plus signs will pop up as you hover over things. I want to go from this frame to this frame, and the trigger for that is on click. So if I click on this frame, it will take me to this frame. Well, let's click on this frame, and I'm going to open up the preview window, and I'll click. All right, we've done it. We've made our first animation. It's very basic, but here, I'll make this a little smaller. I'm going to reset. There's a little reset button up here. There's our starting point, and I click on it, and it takes us there. It actually highlights which frame is being shown in the preview window a little bit too. That's really basic, but it's a nice start. I'd like it to animate a little bit if possible. You'll notice it just kind of goes pop. Okay, well, I have no way of getting back to the starting point, so why don't we add another animation to take us back? So I'll click on this frame and do the opposite. Go from this one to this one, and again, on click, navigate to instant. And now in our preview, we can see that it goes back and forth. Okay, so we're starting to make some progress, slowly. Let's add some color in the open one here. Design mode now. We'll switch out of prototype. I want to take this plant pot, add a bit of a color to it, maybe like this. Okay, let's see how our preview is doing now. Okay, so we're switching between black and white and color. That's nice. And can we add green to these leaves? Well, let's see. This is actually a vector network. This whole shape is on one layer, but we can edit vector networks. I have a video on that topic, actually. And you can go to the paint bucket and change this fill to, let's make green or something. There must be a green here. Yeah. And I'll do the same here with the paint bucket tool. Remove the black, add it back, but now it knows that you mean separately as a different color, and there we go. So we've got now a vector network that has multiple colors in it, which is really, really cool. Let's check our preview now. Okay, we're going from black and white, etc. Now, one of the nicest features of the prototyping in Figma is the ability to smart animate. And what that means is that if the same layers and structure exists in the two layouts, like there's a planter and a flower here, and there's a planter and a flower here, the only difference is that in this one, the flower is deep inside. So when you smart animate it, it's going to move it in place automatically. Watch what happens. So if I click on here and find our prototyping behavior, which was this arrow, so in this direction, on click, navigate to, how do I animate? Well, I could do it instantly, which I'm doing now, or I can dissolve, which makes it kind of fade in and out, or smart animate. Smart animate gives you some other options, which we'll talk about in a second, but let's just see what happens. Oh, right? It moves it from where it was to where it's going. Let's do it in the other way as well, just so it makes sense. On click, instead of, let's do smart animate. Now it should bounce back. Bounce up, bounce down, bounce up, bounce down. So that bounciness is from which of the choices of curve I've chosen. I always find this terminology a little confusing in Figma, to be honest. Ease in, ease out. I don't know what that means. What I now understand is in is the start of the transition and out is the end of the transition. It really should say ease, start, and end. So ease, start, ease, end, ease, start, and end, etc. And back means bounce, like go beyond the end. Either at the start of the move, it kind of takes a step backwards and then animates. Here, let's do some examples. Let's put it on linear just to show you the difference. So I've got the animation going back on linear just to show the difference. See, bounces out and then it just kind of goes back in a smooth line. It's not as fun. So let's move this to, I want it to bounce before it leaves. So it kind of goes up a little bit and then straight down. So that means in back. So at the start, I want it to kind of take a step backwards and then move in back. That should work. And now we've got up and yeah, kind of goes up a tiny bit and then pops down. That's really cool. So we've got our smart bouncy animation going. Now I want to get a little fancier and have an intermediate step. So I'm just going to drag over these interactions and delete them. So we're starting from scratch here. I want another interaction step in the middle. And this one, the flower is just kind of peeking out. Now I want this to happen only when my mouse is hovering over this plant pot. So I can actually double click in and I'm adding an interaction just to this plant pot. So while I'm over this plant pot, move to this frame. But not when I click, only while I'm hovering. So while I'm hovering, show me this frame. And by the way, animate how you get to that frame. I want it to ease at the start and the finish, and I want a little bit of bounce in both directions. So it's ease in and out back. Let's try that. I'm going to go here and shift spacebar to see the preview. Nice. So that's just from that one interaction. You'll notice when I go over it, there's a bounce that takes you there. And when I move my mouse off the plant pot, it does a little bounce back. So while hovering is neat because it describes interaction in both directions. So how do we get to this state over here? Well, that would be if I were to click into this state. So I hover, this pops up, and then I click and it takes me here. So I need to, in this one, connect to this frame with an on click, navigate to, again, smart animate, ease in and out back. Let's try that. Well, let's get back to this starting point here and go. So when I hover, no problem. When I click, it takes me to the last one. Excellent. That's exactly what I want, but I can't get out of it now. I need a way out. So for getting out, I'm going to add yet another behavior that's connected to this plant pot, which takes me all the way back to the starting point. And that's if I click, navigate back, smart animate, ease and out, all the same. Let's try that one. I'll reset and click. Good. So we've got click, and it goes click all the way back. Okay. But you'll notice, if you look closely, there's a problem. So when I click on this, I get my plant up, but when I click to go back to the beginning, it immediately switches to hover mode because my mouse is still over it. I don't want that. I want it to stay in this off state until maybe my mouse moves off and then comes back. So we are going to need an intermediate step in between. Let's just zoom out a little bit here so I've got some room. I'll move these over here. I'm going to create another version of this state. When I copy a frame with interactions, you get a copy of them. I don't actually want that in this case. I'm going to build another one. So when I click on this, I don't actually want it to go back here. I'm going to grab the arrowhead here, which lets me move where the interaction takes me. It's going to take me to this intermediate frame now. And this will be sort of where it waits until my mouse has moved off. So that's fine. It smart animates its way there. But then to get back to the starting point, I'm going to go back to here. And the interaction now is something called on mouse leave. So stay in this mode until the mouse leaves the plant pot and then take me back to the beginning. And in that case, it can go instantly. I don't need any animation. You wouldn't even notice it happening. We hover, we click, and then when we click again, it takes us to this state here. And then when we remove our mouse, it goes here and starts all over. Let's try that. So I go back to the starting point here. I'm going to restart it here. Okay. I hover, good. Get off, yeah, no problem. Click, takes me here. No problem, that's good. When I click, it should take me to a gray plant pot. But I don't have that hover behavior now. If I move my mouse off and then come back on, Ah, that's great. So we've done it. We've got the whole behavior here mapped out. Click, click, move off, move on. Yeah, so it's going through all these 4 states. Well, this is all fine and good, but what if we want to have multiple plant pots on the same frame? This is only describing how one plant pot operates. Well, this is where we need to get into components. What's cool about components and prototyping is that the components themselves can have these interactions built right into them, just that these become variants instead of frames. So if we were to build this into a component set, what we could just simply do, I'll get out of prototype mode. I'm going to highlight these 4 variants, basically, pre-made. I'll just take a copy of them so I can keep my original frames here. And I'm going to take these 4, and I'm going to use something called create component set. And it's created already a name plant pot, and it's given me 4 variants. The names are probably not very helpful, so let me just get these organized. We'll call them something meaningful here. Let's make this variant called start. We'll make this one called, this is kind of the waiting one, call this wait. And then this, I've got to call this one peak. So the plant is peeking out, and this one is bloom. Okay, so we've got 4 variants of a component called plant pot. Now we just need to add some interactions to it. So let's zoom in a little bit here. Now when you first copy these in, it's brought all of its behaviors with it, which is very confusing. So I'm just going to get rid of all the linkages from our component to frames. Let's build our animation here. So from this starting point, let's do it again. So we want, as we hover, we want to go to this variant. This is on, while hovering, change to peak. Instead of navigate to, we have change to, which means change variant. Change to the variant peak. And I would like that to be a smart animation. And I'd like the ease in and out back. That's the one I like. And then we click to get from the peaking one to the fully out one. That's on click, change to bloom, smart animate, ease. Yeah. And then to get from this one back to the starting point, remember we had to have that intermediate one. So it goes back to this wait variant. I'm going to pull it down just so it sort of looks different. Goes to the wait. I can click on the arrow to get back to the settings. On click, change to wait, same animation. And then finally it goes back to this variant when the mouse leaves the plant pot. Mouse leave. And I think we've got the full cycle now. Yeah. You can sort of see it's all there. Okay, but this is a component. It doesn't exist anywhere yet. So if we build a frame over here, and let's drag a copy of this in here. We've got our plant, but you can see it being previewed over here. Okay, now let's see what happens. All right, we've already got the behavior. This behavior is coming from the settings within the component now. So the component has peak behavior, working great. If I click, it pops all the way up. And if I click again, it goes to this sort of waiting state. My mouse leaves, comes back, and all over again. And because it's a component, you can just make as many of these as you want. And they just all work. It is just so cool. I absolutely think it's like magic. I love it. I wanted to get through that one pretty quickly. There's a lot of little details in there, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again soon.